Hello, this is Dean Phoenix with part 12 of my Final Fantasy X How to Be Overpowered guide, and this is just continuing on where we left off after we've just finished the Spectral Keeper. Now obviously this does contain spoilers because it's the end parts of the game and everything else, so look away now if you haven't been watching already. But if you have been watching already, we finished off the Spectral Keeper last time, and you can just see here that we are in Zanarkand and there is another boss that we have to defeat first. Now this is Lady Yunalesca, and the main things that you have to be aware of in this fight are how she will inflict zombie on the party, and also that she has an attack called Mind Blast in her last form, which is extremely good. So if you have any confused ward armor or zombie ward armor, it's a good idea to use those in these fights. Now the first stage, she has quite a lot of HP, but as you can see here I'm able to do a large amount of damage to her anyway. So first use haste with Tidus and any of the characters that you actually want to increase the speed of. Obviously more turns is always better, and you'll see here that obviously she is immune to armor break and magic break and all that kind of stuff. When you hit her, she will respond with a status to try and stop you from using that again. So if you hit her with a physical attack, she will try and use blind, and as you can see here, even if you switch to dark ward, it doesn't always guarantee that you'll be able to not be blinded by her, so she can still hit you through that. So you may have to use some curative items or Asuna with Yuna, so it's a good job to have her hasted if you can. But just bear in mind that Yunalesca can also dispel some positive stasis with her attacks as well. If you can steal from her, you can get a stamina tablet. You can either use that to put, I think it's HP plus 30% on one of your armors, or you can customize it onto an armor and then sell it for a profit, so worth mugging from her if at all possible. Now in this phase 2, after she transforms, you will see that she uses this attack called Hellbiter. Now it doesn't do a massive amount of damage, but you can see there it's inflicted zombie on all of the characters. Now the reason that's a problem is because she will then start using curative spells, and on top of that you won't be able to heal yourself. Now this is part of the reason that I suggested buying some holy waters earlier, and hopefully you've either bought or picked up a zombie ward armor, so that you can have a character being immune to zombie at the same time. Now the thing that you have to really take into account with this fight is that she will put zombie on your characters, and you don't want all of your characters zombied, but you want some of them zombied. See, so there she's just started casting Cura. It does a lot of damage, and because your character is zombied, you then cannot heal them as well. So you can either cast Reflect on the characters to try and stop her from using those curative spells on them whilst you keep plugging away, or you can just wait for them to die and then resurrect them. But what you have to keep an eye on is the fact that she, although she has a lot of health, when she transforms from one stage to the next, you have to make sure that you've got at least one zombied character on the field. You'll see why in a minute. But basically, as you transform her from the second to the third stage, you destroy the third stage, and you can use all of your high damage attacks, like you can see double cast flare there, holy with Kimari and things like that. When she transforms into the third stage, not only does she get even more vitality, so she gets tons of HP, but she opens the third stage and she uses this attack called Megadeth, which inflicts death on everybody. Now it won't work on characters that are zombied, which is why you need to leave at least one zombied character in as you finish off Yunalesca's second stage. So you see it misses Tidus there, and you can actually just use him or whoever else to resurrect the characters. So I actually paused the footage here for a little while whilst I look for something, but you could actually use Riku's mix. She has a mix which will resurrect all of your characters, and I'll put that in the description, or you can just use a Mega Phoenix. Now you probably should have had at least one Mega Phoenix picked up, or if she's hasted or anything else, you've a hasted character in reserve, you just bring them in and then they can use Phoenix Downs twice. So as long as your party doesn't get wiped out by that whole stage, you should be alright. As you can see, she carries on using Hellbiter. She has the odd counter attack and things. Now they don't do massive damage, but you just have to make sure that you're aware that she can cast Megadeth, so you may want to keep at least one or two characters as the zombie status, so that your party won't completely die if she casts Megadeth. As I mentioned before, she has another attack called Mind Blown. And Mind Blown is a nasty little attack because it can cause confusion and it hits the whole party. But it's not particularly likely to confuse all of them, so you can still get away with it. But you just do need to consider that it is a possibility. So if you have Confuse Ward armors, it's a good idea to try and get a couple of people in with Confuse Ward armors at this point, for this stage of the fight in the third stage, so that if she does try and use Mind Blown, they will be resistant to it and you're less likely to get your party wiped out by themselves, which, considering the massive damage that we do on this overpowered playthrough, is quite a bit of a problem. But as you can see here, all I've really hit the third stage with is the double cast flare and Holy, and she's already down half her health because I'm hitting for pretty much maximum damage every time. So hopefully if you're around the same sort of part of the sphere grid, you should be doing a similar sort of thing. Now, if Tidus runs out of magic points so that you can't cast haste anymore, you can use items, and you'll see here there is Mind Blast down. Now, what did I call it before? Anyway, it's called Mind Blast. So you can see that she can hit you, and that attack does have a chance to confuse. So you need to be very careful and make sure that, if at all possible, you have the Confuse Ward armor. So that's very useful. Anyway, just wail away on her with the double cast flare and everything else, and if you get bored or you want to make absolutely sure that you overkill her, you can either summon or grand summon and use Bahamut and his overdrive mega flare, which will do a pretty large amount of damage. So Bahamut's just going to come in and he's going to finish her off, and if you have a weapon with sensor on any of the people on your party, then you'll be able to see when you're in range of dealing that killing blow. So she's extremely tough on challenge playthroughs, and if you're just doing the game normally, she can be pretty tough as well. You just got to make sure you take those precautions. But with this being an overpowered playthrough, hopefully if you've been following some of the things and you have some of the really high strength, or you're towards the end of the grids from the grinding that we've been doing, and the fact that we're set up to get a lot of overkills through the game, you should be in a position to take her out pretty comfortably. As you can see there, I was never really in any trouble. Now this bit is incredibly important. I cannot stress how important this is. And this is only in the international or remaster versions of the game, so the current versions of it. The Dark Aeons appear after you get the airship and everything else in certain points in the world. Now here, you must go down these stairs and you must get the Sun Crest before you leave. It's a very strange, weirdly hidden place, but you can see here there's a chest, so you go down and it looks exactly the same area, but it's not. There's the Sun Crest at the end, and you must get that, because otherwise Dark Bahamut will be guarding this area if you try and come back afterwards, and he will absolutely paste you, so you'll not be able to get Tidus' celestial weapon if that is the case until much later in the game. So you must grab that Sun Crest. Now after that, you have a small cutscene and you get the airship, and then you want to go to High Bridge, which is the location on the list there, and watch the long cutscenes there, and this opens up a couple of the things in the game. Now after you've got control of the airship, the first thing I do is come back to Zanarkand, and then you want to light up the squares I'm showing here. There are 7 white squares in total. The audio's gone a little out of sync here, so I do apologise, but there are 7 of these white squares, and they're the ones that I'm showing you here. So you light up the 7 white squares and you get a little bit just coming up in a sec, where you see a nice little thing where the tiles are actually coded and they play the Hymn of the Faith, which is kind of cool. So after they've played this, you'll be able to get the Destruction Sphere, and then you put the Destruction Sphere in the recess where I think the Besaid Sphere was the first time you came through. So you don't have to worry about missing the Destruction Sphere here, or it being guarded by any Dark Aeons or anything like that. You cannot do it until you've defeated Yunalesca and then come back. So as Sid's audio is annoyingly speaking over mine, but whatever. Anyway, so you just grab the Destruction Sphere and then you bring it back into this first room, and you put it in the little point that we have here, which is in the right hand recess. So after you insert this, you get the Magistral Rod, which is a half MP cost weapon, which is pretty good, and that's very useful. So after you get the sphere there, that should be all 6. So assuming you've been following the guide or a guide or anybody's guide and got all of the 6 Destruction Sphere treasures, you should now be able to get Anima. And this weapon is a reasonably useful weapon, although it won't be very long before we get the actual celestial weapon for Yuna. Anyway, so after you've got that, that'll be all 6 of the Destruction Sphere treasures, and then where we want to go next is we're going to start some of the post-game content, and we'll come on to that in just a minute. So now that you have the actual airship and its full control over it, you can go to any of the locations, and there are also some hidden locations that you can find. So the first one that I would say that you want to visit, having got the Destruction Sphere treasures, is that we want to go and get the next Aeon. Now this is Anima, which is Seymour's Aeon, and it is an extremely powerful Aeon. It has some really good stats and it's very useful for the end game. So this is why it was so crucial for us to get these Destruction Sphere treasures so that we could go and get Anima. So you can see here that we'll be going to the Barge Temple, and you will find the location on the map. It's about here. It's 15.16, I think, 15.16, and then you'll see it come up in a minute. So you've got to search for it. So you find the X there. The X is about 12, it's about 11.6. You'll see it come up in just a minute, so as long as you're close enough, you'll be able to find it. So there I'm at 12 and 12 on the X and 57 on the Y, and it will add the Barge Temple to your list of locations, and that's where we're going to start off the post-game content. Now there's going to be a bit of a bridge between this overpowered walkthrough where we've been going through it normally and the actual post-game content itself. So first I'm just going to very quickly show here, this is Wakka's sphere grid. So as we've shown in previous videos, I've bunched up all the extra strength spheres that you get in this area of the grid next to quick hit, and so I've used the teleport sphere to move Wakka over there, and then he gets a bunch of extra strength, which is extremely useful and makes him very powerful. And then we can learn quick hit as well. And you'll find that Riku, Wakka and Tidus are probably your most used characters through the end game, with Yuna for Aeons and maybe Auron as well, for their qualities of their celestial weapons. So the next video I'm going to do is going to be a little bit of a bridge between this and the end game content. I'm not going to be doing any episodes about going into Sin yet, because if you're going to be doing all the stat maxing and everything, you can always just do those whenever you want and it'll be extremely easy, especially after you've stat maxed. So that's the next video we're going to do. I'm just going to have Riku carrying on through Tidus's grid here, and Tidus has moved on to Auron's, as you will see in a minute. So I hope you found those sections of the guide useful, and then we'll be going on to the post-game content, because I really love the post-game in Final Fantasy X, and I feel like I have some good tips on the efficiency and the best ways to do it most quickly and powerfully. So thank you very much for watching, and please like and subscribe for more videos, and I will be back with those shortly.